I wanted to have this conversation today because I'm noticing a lot of, well, for lack of a better word, dysregulation. And the reason that I don't like dysregulation is because our nervous systems are doing what they're supposed to. They're not dysregulated. Frankly, in my observations of all of the people that I'm seeing online, other content creators, just other human beings, and the people that I'm working with, they're just flat out exhausted. The way society has been structured, uh, at least in my lifetime, and through observation with my clients who are older, also in their lifetimes, is that we come into this world and from the time we can walk, we start being taught how to be productive, how to be useful, how to make other people happy, and how to make money. Because money has been given so much energy and importance. I won't get into that. That's another conversation. But we're flat exhausted. So people are saying, I'm feeling dysregulated. And I want to help shift the vocabulary, not because you're wrong. You are dysregulated in a degree, but because our nervous systems are meant to go into these non-calm states. We have this image that if we're not calm and peaceful all the time, that we have to be working. It's like a one or the other, this very polarized view of the way life should be. We should either be calm and loving and peaceful and tranquil, or super productive, in the spiritual energetic sense, hyper masculine, where we're very putting ourselves forward, where we're showing up and we're making things happen. And when we get into these two places, we're not taking in the nuance of the way our systems work. We're not meant to experience calm all of the time. We're humans. We have a wide range of emotions that color our lives. We're gifted the happy and the joy and the excitement and all of these things that feel really juicy and just lovely. And we're gifted just as equally the anger, the rage, the sadness, and grief. As we experience this range, this spectrum of emotions, you can't have the high highs without the low lows. And so if your goal is neutrality, is this central point, then you're numbing out so many of your experiences. So that can be a conversation in and of itself. Today, I want to talk about actually living your life. I spent a long time feeling like I had to cut out large amounts of my time in order to make sure that I was regulated. And what I noticed after a while was, if I'm saying I have to spend an hour doing yoga, to spend an hour meditating, to spend another hour doing physical exercise, two things were happening. Not four, two things were happening. I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to cut out all this time. Now, I'm a mom, okay? I'm a partner. I have fur babies and obligations and things in my life that need to happen. So I was getting really stressed that in order to make these things happen, that I thought I had to do, to journal, to breathe, all these things, that I was going to have to essentially live on like 5 hours of sleep in order to have enough hours in my day to make that happen. And that just frankly isn't sustainable. Additionally, what I was noticing was that I was essentially taking a big breath and then diving right back in. So I would find myself in the thought process that I would have to have like a cathartic release. I would stress myself, stress myself, stress myself, stress myself, do a yoga practice, get a release, stress myself, stress myself, stress myself. And that's not sustainable. Our nervous system is meant to experience both calm, ease, relaxation, and stress. There's a story. I go into stories if you haven't met me. Um, a while back, I don't remember what year, there was an experiment done with a biodome in Arizona. And with that biodome, they had, enclosed this space. They were looking to see what it would be like if you could control the environment, how growing crops was, and everything that goes on in a biodome. You're trying to make a little ecosystem. Well, something interesting happened. After 3 years, the trees were growing so rapidly. They were nourished, they were supported, they had everything they needed in this little ecosystem, and they grew and grew and grew and grew. And then after about 3 years, they all just started collapsing. And the scientists were like, what the heck is going on? Come to find out, the trees weren't experiencing wind. Now, if you think of wind, you don't think much of it, right? Usually it's a gentle breeze. It's on your skin. It kind of feels refreshing. But that same gentle breeze on a sapling is causing stress. And that stress is causing micro tears, micro fractures in its material that it then has to build stronger so that it can later support itself, support its weight. It'd be like saying you haven't walked your entire life, okay? You weigh the same amount, you won't have the same bone density, first of all, but then you go to stand up for the first time, let's say in 30 years, even 3 years. You go to stand up for the first time, your muscle structure is not there to support it. Our nervous system works similarly. So if we're not experiencing a little bit of struggle, a little bit of challenge, then we're not going to be able to manage when challenge happens. So the goal is not necessarily staying in this window of regulation. It's building a container where you can experience stress and experience calm. I don't have a better word right now. Calm's just the one coming through. So we're pushing ourselves constantly. We're looking for all of the things that we have to do in our brain. Our nervous system is very good. Its whole job is to protect us. So it's constantly looking for stress. It's constantly on alert, especially depending on the environment you were raised in and your experiences throughout life. There's other things we can get into there. So if you're curious, let me know when it comes to like epigenetics and whatnot. But it's looking to keep us safe. And when we're constantly being told from a very young age, you need to be productive, you need to eventually be a productive adult. These are the things I don't like about you. We start putting on masks. We start finding ways to protect ourselves. And then when nobody's around, we break down. Or we get to a point where we just can't take it anymore because maybe we don't know how to ask for support. So today's conversation, I don't particularly like this term, but it's about micro practices. It's about things that we can do that are sustainable so that you're not getting this huge exhale at the beginning or the end of your day, only to build up so much stress that it feels unmanageable. And then let's say you get sick or more responsibility gets put on you and you don't have time to do that part of your day where you get that big exhale. If you don't have that time, then you don't feel like you can manage. And then maybe you go to unhealthy coping techniques like addictions, alcohol, cannabis, other drugs, sex, TV. We find ways to cope, and they're not always healthy. They're not always supportive. So these are things, it's going to be 7 ways that your body, your mind, your spirit, your soul, every part of you actually needs and receives rest, and how you can incorporate that throughout your day. So you're getting a little dose of stress and then some relief, and a little dose of stress and some relief. You're not getting to that breakdown point. So if this sounds like a supportive conversation for you, pardon me, I'm going to invite you to grab a journal. If you want to take notes, obviously you'll always have this conversation. I'm here with you. And grab something supportive to drink, some water, some tea. If you're a coffee person, go for that too. And I'm always a fan of the cozy blanket, something soft to touch. Okay. Now, like I said, these practices, these concepts are meant to be incorporated into daily life. I don't want you to get caught in this trap. I did for a minute. So I'm going to speak to you like I would speak to me 10 years ago. The things that we talk about, the things that people in general say will help. First of all, we are not a one size fits all. We're not cookie cutters. We're not machines. So when somebody says, this is what worked for me, remember that that's what worked for them. There's so much that makes who we are today, our experiences, our emotions, our chemical makeup, our physical biostructure, our opinions, our values. So much goes into it. So when I had joined a nervous system regulation group, I just liked to, look, see what other people are doing, seeing, experiencing, see how I can help. And somebody would say, this is what I'm going through in life right now. This is kind of some of my experiences. So they had maybe like a 7-sentence idea of who this person was. And this person's looking for advice, books, resources. And people would go in and be like, you just need this. You just need to meditate. You just need to stop eating MSGs. I thought that was an interesting one. You just need more magnesium. Now, all of these things are supportive, but one thing will not fix all. Additionally, don't get caught in the trap of feeling like you need to do everything every day. The magic sauce, the key to life that I have found, and again, this is for me and this is for the people that I've supported, is that taking into account that you are an individual and life fluctuates every day. Even if you're going to the same job every day, even if you have the same chores to do every day, whatever it is, there are nuances in that. Some days feel busier, some days feel faster, some feel slower, some feel more nourishing. So not everything needs to be done every day. This is not a checklist that you need to put on your wall and say, okay, did my yoga, did my breathing, did this. Oh crap, I didn't get to do this part. Nah. Don't get caught in that. Let life flow and fluctuate. Ooh, that makes me want to get into a conversation on water. We'll bookmark there. Let me know if that one sounds interesting. Okay, so without further ado, take a big breath. The first type of rest that supports us as human beings is physical. We have this wonderful, incredible body that we are gifted at birth that is so unique to us, that has gotten us from point A to point B. Maybe not always in the easiest, most comfortable ways. However, it has. you're here right now, and it needs just as much of your support as you need its. So by one of my trades, I guess you could say, one of the ways that I incorporate my work is through body work as a massage therapist and a somatic therapist. I have had a wide array of clients. A lot of them are physically active in some regard, not all. But I find that, especially given today's culture, we do not take time to properly or effectively physically rest. We go, we push, and then we crash. I had one client who was an athlete and did not take a day off of training. For all intents and purposes, they looked very healthy, and their mentality was, I'll rest when I get sick. Well, my dears, you will get sick because your body has not rested. And so your immune system is going to tank. Your body will force you to rest. And it's not usually at a convenient time. So what does rest really mean? It means recovery. Recovery for this beautiful body. You might not like the way it looks, but you get to decide what beauty is, not the billboards. Okay? I had a hard time with that after I had kids and my stomach changed, my body changed. You are beautiful because you are alive and you are human. You are a magnificent gift. Treat your body as such. Rest does not mean actual, sleep is good, okay? But you have to get quality sleep. There are phases to your sleep. So if you're just catnapping all the time, you're not getting that deep restorative sleep. You're not getting into the rapid eye movement where you're dreaming. Maybe I had found myself, I was having a hard time sleeping for a while, and so I used cannabis for a little while to help me get to sleep, but I wasn't dreaming. And so I woke up feeling groggy. My brain hadn't had time to process. It hadn't had the rest that it needed to recover. My body for a long time, because my nervous system was, and I hate these words, stuck in fight or flight, I was so activated all the time that I wasn't getting deep sleep. I was sleeping in light phases. Any little noise would wake me up. And so my body felt achy. I wasn't recovering. I wasn't getting to a point where biologically my cells were restructuring and clearing out the old gunk. Now, fun fact, our brains actually learn better if they've been rested before. There was a scientific study done, do we need sleep more before or after we learn something? It turns out both, shocker. But if you think of your brain like a computer, okay, again, we're not machines, but we do hold memory. We have a storage bank, so to speak. If your storage bank is full with all of your experiences from the day or the day before, and then you go in and you try to shove more in there, there's no space. It's full. So we have to sleep, dump out, and then we can put more in. Isn't that fun? I think it's fun. Actual physical rest and recovery is also not being lazy all the time. It's not sitting and not moving. That might feel good for our mind, but our body needs movement. There's a video I did on integrated healing and why it's not sticking. I can link that below. But motion is lotion, my loves. When we move, our connective tissue and our hydration, our water, is moving through our body. Our lymphatic system, which helps our immune system, is moving, it's flowing. So when we're sitting still all the time, we're not flushing out the old stuff. We're just getting sticky. Things stop moving. and then things start hurting, and then we move less, which perpetuates the problem, which throws off our nervous system because our nervous system is freaking out, saying, oh no, I'm getting old, everything's breaking down, everything hurts, what's going on, what's happening to me? They go hand in hand. So recovery might look like a slow walk, letting your nervous system, your brain, know that you're safe enough to take a leisurely stroll. It doesn't have to be a workout. It doesn't have to be a quick pace. And you're not just getting it done, just casually walking. I love going outside and being in nature. There's a lot of science and anecdotal evidence about the benefits of being among trees and in nature, but maybe you don't have access to that and you have access to a park or a treadmill. Moving slowly is beautiful for you. So good. Maybe you sit for a while and you, I don't know, read a book or watch TV for a bit, and then you get up and you move around. You stretch, you shift, you twist. You give yourself a little bit of expansion showing up in this body. So restorative. And it brings your awareness back to your body. It lets you feel where you are in space. You're not just in your head. Stretching, moving, feeling, experiencing life, and breathing. Now, meditation, beautiful. Breath work, beautiful. Breath work can often be very activating, where we're looking for this catharsis because our brain thinks that that's what we need. Because we cry, we feel better for a little while, but it comes back. Because we're not sustaining, we're not building something sustainable. Again, conversation for another time. Let me know if you want to hear that one. But just breathing slowly. So while you're cooking dinner, we often find ourselves, if you notice, if you pay attention, breathing very shallowly. We're not getting that oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange that we chemically need, that our nervous system needs. Letting our bellies relax so we can get a full breath. So, so valuable. That is rest physically. And that's not something that you have to take a whole day doing. Now, is it wonderful? Does it sometimes feel really glorious to just spend a whole day lounging and moving slowly and not having responsibilities? Absolutely. But if you can be in a place where maybe you wake up 5 minutes early and just breathe, before you even open your eyes, breathing and noticing your body, acknowledging that it exists, what the sheets and the blankets feel like on you, what temperature you are, just noticing and breathing, that can be so physically restorative, which leads to less aches and pains. The next, number 2, type of rest that we need is mental. Our brains do so much. I don't remember the specific statistic, but I know that like grandmasters in chess burn so many calories just sitting there. Their brains are doing so much work. If you think of a computer, again, when you have your computer running for a while, it gets hot because it's using so much energy. That output is huge. So when we're constantly in our heads thinking about conversations that we have, to-do lists that we need to take care of, other people's emotions, like there's so much that goes on up here, we get cluttered. And then it becomes foggy, it becomes disorganized. So taking a mental break, a brain break, can be so helpful. I tell my kids when they're doing their homework, set a timer. If you have a hard time keeping track, you can set a timer for like 15, 20 minutes. Take a 10-minute brain break. Let your brain just kind of like, let the brain breathe. Or, I mean, if you're good about keeping on track, then you can while you're noticing, while you're doing your homework, while you're doing your work, whatever it is, be like, okay, starting to get a little bogged down right now. I'm going to take a 10-minute break, and then change your situation. Go outside, do something else completely, and just let the brain settle. Now, what does mental rest actually look like? It means clearing mental clutter. So maybe you're setting work boundaries. Now, I work for myself and I adore my clients. So for a long time, I had a tendency after hours, it was like 9 o'clock at night. Maybe I finished my last session late, or maybe it was a weekend or one of my days off, and I would get a message from somebody. I'd say, oh yeah, I'm going to reply to that right now. I wasn't taking that time because I was always thinking, checking, when is somebody contacting me? When does somebody need me? How can I make this work? So to say, I'm off work right now. Now, I tell myself I'm going to work until this time or until this task is done, and then I close my laptop and I put it to the side. Maybe I pull it out if I feel like playing a video game. I don't do those often, but sometimes I do. But actually setting a physical representation of turning your boundary, of turning on your boundary. I'm done with work. I'm done answering emails for the day. No input breaks. Just sitting for a moment. I typically have a fairly loud house, and that goes into our next one. But I have to tell my kiddos sometimes, like, brain's doing too much right now. I need just 2 minutes of not being asked questions. And that helps me come back more mentally clear for them. I'm not snapping at them because I'm at the end of my rope. I'm not getting annoyed or irritated, and then they're hearing, and this can go for anybody, like that passive aggressive tone, like, oh, what do you need? Because I'm caring for myself at all points. I'm paying attention to what I need, and that's not selfish. Again, another conversation. I'm taking care of what I need so that I can best provide and be a human with other beings. So if I say I'm doing too much right now, I need to set something aside. I have a long to-do list. What actually needs to get done today or right now? And what can shift? Now, what can be put off? What can just shift to another time? What's not an emergency? So that I am not putting more on my system constantly. So I'm not picking up more bags, juggling more plates, putting more sticky notes up of things that I need to remember. And this doesn't have to be forever. Maybe you do need a long break, a vacation, so to speak. But if we think of the idea of a vacation, we're escaping our normal reality, and maybe we get some rejuvenation. Maybe we rest and we recharge and we feel better while we're there. But my love, everything still exists when you come home because you're in the same situation. So to be able on a daily basis for 30 seconds to be like, okay, it's going to take a second, no input, just breathe. It can be so good for your brain. Practicing mindfulness, which in its essence, in definition, everybody defines mindfulness differently. I look at it as being truly present. If I'm here having a conversation with you, I'm not thinking about my to-do list later. Maybe the dogs let me know they need a walk, and so that takes a little bit of my energy and awareness, but I'm having a conversation with you. If I'm doing the dishes, maybe one of my kids or my husband's talking to me, and so my energy and awareness is a little dispersed, but I'm also paying attention. If I'm by myself, I'm paying attention to those dishes. What does the sponge feel like in my hand? What temperature is the water? How is the soap moving? Can I feel the grit of the food being washed off the plate? noticing everything in this moment. We have so many bits of information. I want to say they said it was like 3 million or 3 billion bits of information at any given moment. The lights, the colors, the sounds, the smells, like everything that our senses are picking up on. And our brain is filtering out so much of it to try to decide what's actually relevant to our survival in this moment. So when we can tell our brains, this is all we're paying attention to right now, not the thoughts and the stories going on in our heads, not the conversations that we're trying to replay to figure out what we did wrong or what they did wrong. Just, this is what I'm doing. So a practice that I loved when I started out, or I guess many years ago, because when do you actually start, was I would set a timer. Maybe first every hour, maybe every 2 hours, then 3 hours, whatever feels supportive for you, and say, first of all, set the timer for something gentle, not a blaring alarm that startles you, but set that a timer. And when it goes off, what am I doing right now? What am I actually doing? Am I actually here in this moment washing the dishes? Am I actually here driving the car, folding the laundry, having a conversation with my friend, partner, loved one, whatever? Or am I thinking about other things? Just noticing. Once you start bringing awareness to things, things shift so profoundly. Your mental load will feel so much lighter because you're not doing other things inside your head. You're just in this moment in life. Society pushes us to be so productive, to be constantly prepared, and it's not sustainable. So when we can give our brains space to breathe, we can actually be more productive. Think about when, I don't know if this has happened to you. Let me know if it hasn't, because I'm curious. I would love to know how many people this has never happened for. Like, you sleep through your alarm, you wake up late, you've got to rush to get out the door. That rushing, that panic that's going on in your brain actually makes you move slower, and you're likely to forget or miss things, as opposed to when you wake up clear. Now, it can be the same amount of time, but if you're not panicked, then you can do more and be more effective than if you are. So when your brain has space to have breathed, to say everything is not an emergency, I can be in this moment right now, then you can put so much more energy and awareness in that thing that you're doing now that you get it done well. So if you're worried about productivity, that's a really big, juicy little key there. We also need sensory rest. Now, this has become more prevalent recently, because so many people are realizing that to some degree they're on the autism spectrum, and there are various presentations of it. I notice a lot with high functioning autistic individuals, which I hate using because that makes it another conversation. I won't digress. I'll keep myself reeled in. But sensory input, whether you align with or identify with being on the spectrum or not, having constant sensory input can be so overwhelming for the nervous system, because again, our system is trying to protect us. So when it's taking in so many bits of information already, and you're throwing more at it, it has a hard time filtering out. It gets fatigued. We have so much input already. If you think back, now you may not have experienced this, but just think of the idea of decades and decades ago, hundreds and thousands of years, when we were, let's say, nomadic in a tribe. We were living outside. Maybe we had like huts, things like that to protect us from the elements, but our sound was conversation. We'll go back before guns. Okay. Our sound was conversation in the tribe, in the village. Maybe animals, the wind, the birds, the water if we were near a river that was rushing. And now we have cars, TV, radio, fans over our ovens, phone notifications, people talking, music playing, lights, so many lights, artificial lights, which they are finding affect us differently than the natural light of the sun. Even thinking of like blue light stimulation at night from our devices and our phones and lights, and how that affects our melatonin production to allow for physical rest. We are input overloaded. So to take time away from that input, even for a moment, when you use the restroom, don't bring your phone. Just use the restroom. Rather than scrolling or reading a book, just being there with your body, with your breath, not taking more in. We're constantly learning. So many people where it's like, I read this book, on to the next one. I listened to this podcast, on to the next one. And we're not taking time to integrate what we're learning, what we're experiencing, how we feel about it, if we agree or not. I sang earlier, I tend to have a pretty loud house. I've got pets. One of my kiddos has a bird. So usually there's lights on, conversation happening, maybe the animals are playing, my washer and or dryer are going, I have a dehumidifier that makes noise, and then when I'm cooking, I have to turn the fan on above the stove. And there was one day that I had had an exceptionally busy and productive day with things that I needed to get done for work. And I said, okay, I'm going to take a few minutes to just do something creative. I wanted to do a diamond art piece, those little gemstones. So I get it set up on my table, and the dryer finally turned off. And for a moment, there was silence. And I didn't realize how much my system was being overwhelmed by all of the noise happening. The dogs were resting, the dryer was off, and it just hit me all of a sudden like a wave. And I said, oh my goodness, this is rest. This is what I needed. I needed quiet. And I took a big breath, and then, funnily enough, my dehumidifier turned on. And so it was like, it's like, oh, nope, turning that off. Like I realized I was having too much input. And sometimes that even comes into the clothes that we wear. So many people dress for style over comfort. And while I don't tend to recommend too many books because everybody's different and it's very situational, if somebody comes to me and says, I'm looking for a book that helps me understand this, then I'm happy to recommend a book. But when it's just general, I don't typically do that. But I will recommend The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk any day, to understand how our bodies hold on to emotions and input because our nervous systems are trying to keep us safe. So maybe the shirt that you're wearing is a little too constrained. Maybe it's too loose. Maybe it's scratchy. Maybe your bra is tight if you're female bodied. Maybe your boxers aren't sitting right if you're, I guess, male or female bodied. Maybe your hair, if you have long hair and it's in a ponytail all day, that feeling of when you take it out and your hair comes down and your follicles feel like they can relax, and you didn't realize that you were on the cusp of a headache all day because you had it just sitting there tugging on your scalp all day. These little moments, everything is putting input onto our senses. And so to find little moments throughout the day. Now, I personally love floating in a magnesium tank. They have shops out here. I know like West Coast, it tends to be more popular. I don't know how popular it is elsewhere in the country or overseas. Um, but to be able to sit for 60 to 90 minutes in a sensory deprivation tank where the water is body temperatured, and as you acclimate, all that's left is nothing. Unless you move and then you feel the water shift. So rejuvenating for me specifically. Now I know people that kind of quiet and lack of input is entirely overwhelming for them because they haven't learned to be with their systems, to be in their own presence, to be in their own mind. And so that's a lot for them. So as with everything, it's a grain of salt. Take what works for you, leave the rest. But if you can turn off an extra light in the house, not only are you saving electricity and that'll help your bill, but you're giving your sensory organs less input. If you can read a book without background noise on, without a radio or a fan or whatever it is that you typically like keep on, if you can drive without the radio, just little bits of less input. Maybe you silence your notifications. I have a smartwatch that I keep on, and I only have the really relevant notifications that go to it. Like, if my kids text me, that will come through and it vibrates. It doesn't even make a noise. But the Facebook notifications and all of those things, either completely silence them or keep your phone on silent. Is it really that emergent? Maybe set up, I know that they have systems on the phone now, back when I did doula work, that I could put my phone on silent, and if a specific client texted or called me, that would come through with a noise. So that I wasn't constantly checking my phone. Because back when I was doing birth work, it was a lot on my nervous system when I knew I had a client who was near time for labor. Constantly checking my phone. Okay, they didn't call me. Oh, was that noise this person? And it was so stressful. It was so overwhelming. So just find little ways that you can shift and adjust what you're already doing every day to give your senses a little bit of rest. Maybe you take a day wearing soft clothes, loose clothes, clothes that you wouldn't be caught dead out in public in, but then you go out in public anyway. I think if we can make a society where we're less judgmental of other people, we'll be a lot less judgmental of ourselves, and vice versa. To understand that we're all our own universes. Conversation for another time. Anyway, all right, I think we're on number 4, creative rest. A lot of us, in some capacity, are creators. Maybe we're teachers making lesson plans, or we work on social media and we're creating content, or we're parents and we're creating ways to nourish and enrich our children's lives. Society as a whole wants us to make output, and eventually we'll burn ourselves out there. Sometimes creative rest means I'm not going to make anything new. I'm not going to solve any problems right now. I'm going to take a moment to experience and receive, specifically, beauty and wonder. And that is whatever that means for you. Maybe you go out on a hike in the woods and you just witness the trees and the birds and the bugs, the dirt, the wind, the smell, to bring in nourishing things. Maybe you're an author or a painter or a songwriter and you're running on creative empty. Bring in things that inspire you. Read something that nourishes you, whether that's a really juicy fiction. Admittedly, I like YA novels. They're fun. They're not serious. They're not too complex. And when I've been pumping out things, I love to just be like, let me just have some literary candy, something simple that I'm not trying to digest. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good fiction novel that's really dense and elaborate. But sometimes I just want something simple. That's okay. Maybe you're a nonfiction person. Can you read something that inspires you? Something that just feeds your soul, a story about somebody who, experienced adverse life experiences and got through them for the better, not just survived, but thrived. Maybe I have a client who is so dear to me, and she loves like murder mysteries and things like that, but she felt like she was on a diet of candy, so she reads books about like tuberculosis and malaria, and those are nourishing to her when she feels like she's been doing too much. Just changing your state a little bit. Maybe you listen to a different style of music to inspire you, to acknowledge that there are things outside of your current bubble. If you go to an art museum, maybe you just physically change your surroundings. There are days that I have to work on my business structure, on creating programs and things like that, or, balancing my books. And so I say, if I'm sitting at my desk, that's too much for me all the time. So today, just one day, maybe once a quarter, I'm going to take myself to breakfast. And while I'm eating breakfast in this little cute diner that has a view, that's when I'll balance my books. And then when I'm done with my breakfast, I'm going to take a break. You can find ways to do both. The reason in doing both, the reason I don't like saying micro practices is the Atomic Habits was something that was really popular for a while, and it probably still is, of finding micro practices. So like while you're brushing your teeth, do your squats. And to some degree that is very effective, but on our nervous systems, that's still pushing us to constantly be doing rather than being, where you're trying to fit as much into your day as possible rather than just experience life, experience this moment. You can do both, but notice what feels nourishing for you and what feels stressful for you. Like if you forgot to do your squats while you brushed your teeth, are you going to be stressed about that, or is it no big deal? Notice how that sits for you. All right, number 5, emotional rest. Most of my clients, or I guess I should say most of the people who align with my work specifically and my style of work outside of body work, are female bodied. That doesn't mean men don't experience this. I think actually men experience this more than we realize. They just have a hard time talking about it. There was a really great TikTok that I saw. It was a longer one talking about men's experiences with emotions. And I'd love to do a conversation on that one day, maybe with that person specifically. Let me know if you're a male-bodied person who wants to hear about emotions and the male experience, because things have become very polarized for men and for women. We've become pit up against each other. It's a you versus me, and we're all humans. So I'll use we, even though I experience this more. I hear about this more from women. We as humans often have a very large emotional load. We're managing our own emotions, and we're managing other people's emotions, whether that's our coworkers that we're trying to make sure are happy so they don't snap at us, our managers, our bosses, our children, our partners, whoever the case might be. We are putting a lot of emotional burden onto ourselves constantly, whether we're doing it consciously or not. So sometimes we need an emotional rest. Sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, back when I first got married, my husband worked a lot. He was in the military, he was gone a lot, and I worked a lot. And so then we would get a day off together, and that's when I felt like I had to catch up on all of the emotional stuff from the entire week or however long it was that we hadn't gotten to talk about, when truly we just needed a day off together. And when I started letting that happen, things worked out a lot better between the two of us because we were both recharged. So we need these breaks for managing our emotions. Now, emotions are important. They need to be understood, both in ourselves and in others, because we're human. We have emotions. Again, wide range, huge spectrum. That's normal, that's natural, that's healthy. But to constantly be putting it all in. Maybe you're the person who's always listening to other people. Maybe you're a talk therapist or a massage therapist or a hairdresser, and you're constantly taking on other people's stuff. I used to call that being icked, where I would go into a client. Thankfully, I don't have these experiences anymore. But if you are, an early in your career massage therapist or another career that people talk to you about their feelings, I would take on other people's feelings because I would go in feeling neutral, feeling grounded, feeling centered, which is healthy. And they would tell me all of their problems and they felt better, but energetically I was like, no, like I'm supportive of them and I empathize, I sympathize, but it didn't feel like they were just talking to me about it. It felt like they were putting it on me. Like they were saying, I'm carrying this bag that I don't want to carry anymore. You take it. And so you have to be able to flip the script. For you as a person to be able to talk openly with somebody. Maybe that's to a therapist, maybe that's to a supportive friend, where you're just talking. You're not dumping onto them. That's the key difference. It's healthy to talk about your emotions. But what is your intention behind it? Is it I need to get this off of me and you take it? Or is it just I just want to be heard and seen? And if talking to a human doesn't feel comfortable, talk to your pets, your bird, your cat, your dog, your snake, your fish, your plant. I used to talk to my plants while I watered them. They love it. Maybe you just journal it out and don't think about what you're journaling. Sometimes you just need to dump stream of consciousness, get it on the page, out of your system, tear it up, burn it, flush it down the toilet, never think of it again. There are times with journaling that it is very, very beneficial to kind of keep what you have been through so that you can go back and say, I'm not there anymore. But sometimes there's those feelings of hate, of rage, of disgust that need to come out of your system so that you're not holding on to them, poisoning yourself, and then you just need to get it gone. So maybe journaling, whether you're typing, maybe you're using like a voice recording app, talk to the universe, and also setting boundaries of saying, I can't take this right now. Some people are going to call that selfish. Some people are going to call that self-centered because they feel like they need you. But you can't care for others, them or otherwise, if you're not caring for yourself. So it is completely natural and healthy to say, I hear you. I feel you. I understand that you're experiencing this right now. I don't have it in my capacity to take that on with you. Maybe you say, can we talk about this another time? You had a whole long day at work where lots of people were dumping on you. And then you come home and your partner needs support. That's healthy. And I know you love your partner, or you wouldn't be with them. So maybe you tell your partner, darling, my love, I adore you. I am so sorry that you're experiencing this right now, and I want to be here for you. Can you give me 5 minutes to decompress from work? Let me take a shower. Can you give me a couple of days? However long your system feels like it needs is totally reasonable. Setting those boundaries cares for you, which means you can care for them better. The sixth type of rest that we need is social. Now, I tend to be an ambivert. Some people are extroverts, some people are introverts. Not all social experiences are equal. despite how you express yourself socially, you can be talking with somebody that you feel so loved and cared for and energized by. Maybe they're not even doing anything for you specifically. Maybe you're just sitting together, reading a book. You're not even talking, but just being around that person just feels lovely. There's somebody that you appreciate and enjoy. And then there's those people that you get around. I know, a lot of people call them energy vampires, where whether they're talking to you or not, you're around them and eventually you're just like, I feel so depleted. My emotional battery is cooked. My social battery is cooked. My husband and I say, I don't have spoons for this person. Like I woke up, and not every day is going to be equal. Today I woke up with 4 spoons. Calling the IRS took 2 spoons. Getting the kids ready for work took a spoon, and doing my work took a spoon. I'm cooked. I'm out of spoons. I can't deal with this person. This person does not give me more spoons. They don't even stay neutral in the spoon category. They're a depletion and I can't do it. And it's healthy to respect that for yourself. So socially, in these situations, to get rest socially is to be around friends that are supportive, that maybe they do help you with the dishes because they have extra spoons or social battery to give. Maybe they just sit with you. You sit on a bench together. You look at the trees. You watch the cars go by. And that's it. That's the extent of it. Maybe you set a social boundary of not taking on obligations that you don't have the energy for. So many of us tend to be people pleasers to some degree because we care or because we're afraid. That's another conversation we can get into. But to truly just be able to say, I can't. I don't want to go to the party. That sounds like too much for me. I want to go home and take a bubble bath. Beautiful. Do that. I can't pick up extra hours at work. Can't do it. That's healthy. That's a healthy acknowledgement. Don't let other people guilt you into the things that they want from you. I'm sure I'll catch flack from that in some regard, but taking solo time. A lot of people who have a hard time with that. They have a hard time sitting with themselves and being with themselves for various reasons. And I understand. But you're going to be with yourself for the rest of your life, my love. And there aren't always going to be other people around. Sometimes that's because you're using the bathroom. Sometimes because there's no one available. Learn to spend some time with yourself. What do you enjoy? What recharges you? Taking naps, sitting in a hammock, going somewhere. Take yourself on a date. Just spending time with you and not taking on other people's social energy is incredibly restorative for the nervous system. And then lastly, spiritual rest. Now, spirituality and religion are 2 separate entities. They are 2 separate concepts. So, while I'll mention some concepts of religion, we are strictly staying spiritual. Okay. So, spiritually, our soul, our essence, our energy, we as humans need a purpose. We need to have meaning, or we get to a point where we say, what is this even for? What is the point here? Why am I doing this? And that's when some of the seeds of depression start being planted. And there's more to that. We can get into that another time as well. So finding ways to reconnect with your meaning, your purpose, your passion, your mission in life, whether it's to rescue dogs or to listen to old people talk because they are lonely. Like, it doesn't matter. What is it for you? So when you're spending time resting spiritually, reflect on what really matters to you. What are your values? What has meaning to you, not to anybody else, just to you. We are all so unique and we all have different missions and purposes here. That's the point. To be able to sit and say, I've been working in this way. I've been going along with so much of what other people think is right or valuable, and it doesn't resonate with me. I need to come back to me. But you have to acknowledge that that's happening and reflect on that before you can come back. To practice gratitude. Now, not in a bypassing way, not in a good vibes only, not in avoiding all of the bad, but our brains are wired to look for the bad, to protect us. There was a study done that found that for every singular negative experience, I think the study was specifically with like parents and children, but it could work with any interpersonal relationship. For every one negative, and I use the word negative loosely, experience, it took 10 positive experiences to level it out. Because our brain is going to remember, this made me feel unsafe. So when we're saying, this is going poorly in my life, my relationship, my job, my finances, like all of these areas of our lives, when we're saying all of this is going poorly, we're not even looking for the ways that it's going well. We have to train our brains to say, to kind of correct it, for lack of a better word. You know, when a kid comes home and says from school, and says, I don't have any friends, even though they've spent the day playing at recess with 5 other people, that's the way they feel. And they're not wrong, but they also are right. They don't feel like they have any friends. Well, who is spending time with you? Training your brain to look for the good. And sometimes it's small. Sometimes it's, I woke up today. I have a roof over my head. I had a few bites to eat in the fridge. Whatever it is, start small if you have to. But if you can find just a couple of things each day that you can feel grateful for, your system can breathe, your spirit can rest, because it doesn't feel like life is just challenge and struggle and meaningless. To volunteer, to connect with other humans, maybe it's other animals or nature, the planet, whatever that is for you, to be able to give yourself to something that has meaning to you, to something that has purpose, can be so restorative for your soul, for your heart. I know when I go out and I work with the elderly or with animals, or I take my kids when we go to the park, we take a trash bag and we clean things up, because we live here too. Is it sad that other people aren't doing this, that they are leaving trash? Yeah, to some degree. It is. And I hope one day that they learn to be more kind to the planet. But I can take my time. It's not going to hurt me to, while I'm already there, pick up a couple pieces of trash. You know, as long as it's safe. We bring gloves too, and we don't pick up anything sharp. You know, we have rules. One of my kiddos, he didn't realize that I did this. I guess this goes in the next one with volunteering, is just being kind to other humans. When you're kind to other humans and you see how they respond, there's something inside of you that gets something from that. There's something inside of you that says humans deserve to have kindness shown to them, and I am one of them. So we live in a world with a lot of trolls. I went live yesterday and I wore this shirt that I really enjoy. It's a super comfy shirt. I like that it's kind of tie-dyed and a little distressed, and I just like the way it fits. And somebody popped into my live and they said, I think I saw your shirt on Temu a while ago. It looks like you picked it up off the floor. That's fine. I actually got it at Target and I really enjoy this shirt. So thank you for noticing it. And we can be kind to other people. We live. And so I love, there's on TikTok, the kindness mob. I love the work that he's doing. It brings so much joy to my heart that I'm going to start crying. When I work with my elderly clients, some of them just want somebody to talk to because they're lonely. So I've made a practice now that, Amazon is part of our life. When I do get something from Amazon and it doesn't work out and I have to return it, I go to a Kohl's. And when you return something with Kohl's, I don't know if this is everywhere, just as a drop-off location, they give you a coupon for Kohl's. I don't shop at Kohl's. It's just not something that I do. So I used to do it myself. Now I bring a kiddo with me and I hand them that coupon. It's like 40% off or 10% off, I don't know. And I say, go find somebody, anybody, doesn't matter who they are. Say, are you shopping here today? Would you like a coupon? It's not costing me anything to give them my coupon. I'm not using it. It's not costing me anything to pay a compliment to someone. It's not costing me anything to be grateful that I have food, to be grateful that I have dishes that I have to wash because I cooked food on them and I ate something nourishing, something that's going to refuel my body. I find that a lot of us get caught in these ruts of the, I have to, I have to, I have to, responsibilities. Honey, my love, you get to choose what you make of your life. There are always going to be consequences and complications. There's going to be struggle. But when you can keep a sense of wonder and appreciation, there are days that my body is tired and I don't necessarily want to work out. But I get to. I get to move my body. It's a gift. And if my body is tired and actually needs to rest, I listen to it. There are days that I wake up and the sun is shining. There are days that I wake up and it's raining. Thank goodness. The earth needs that rain. There's a lot to be said for mindset work and affirmations, and that's a conversation for another time. There are pros and cons there. Everything can be dialed too much. But when we can find a happy medium, an understanding, a perspective that acknowledges that yes, some things are challenging, and also we've made it this way, and yay, that resets our spirit to some degree. Now, I've already been talking your ears off, so let me know what you thought of these 7 types of rest that we need. How often are you giving them to yourself? How much more do you feel like you need? And then I'll leave you with a couple just tiny, tiny practices that you can do throughout your day, because again, it's not about going on the mat and spending an hour or 2 hours and then coming back and just bombarding yourself with stress. It's finding little things. So a couple little practices that you can do: be in nature. Again, there's a lot of science about that. Maybe you don't have nature near you. Maybe you just have a tree on the sidewalk. We live in a more city environment now, so when I walk my kids to school, I touch the trees as I walk by. When I'm walking my dogs, I notice the grass. Just connecting with nature. I also have houseplants. Being around animals. Again, nature. Being creative. Drawing, coloring, playing, finding ways to play. Life doesn't have to be so serious. We can joke, we can enjoy, we can create something beautiful. And it doesn't always have to cost you money. I was caught in a rut of, I'm going to treat myself, so I'm going to go buy a coffee, I'm going to go buy a shirt. And I was getting to this point where it's like, I don't have money to keep buying things for myself. I don't have space to keep buying myself something. So what if you changed that little reward? I really did good today. I felt centered. I led from my heart when I spoke, even having hard conversations. I'm going to give myself an extra hug. I'm going to give myself 5 extra minutes in the shower, relaxing in the hot water, and just enjoying the juiciness of it. It doesn't always have to be monetary. Coloring, painting, being creative, writing a poem, making a song, doing something that you find creativity in, dreaming up a machine, doesn't matter. Create something for yourself. Solve a problem in a fun way. Think outside the box. Go back into childhood. Play, dance. Dance while you're doing your chores. Dance while you're making dinner. Put something fun on while you're driving to work. Change your state. We get caught in this rut. And if we can break ourselves out of it, if we can shake things up a little bit, our entire situation and outlook on life can change so drastically. Humming will activate our vagus nerve, which helps relax our nervous system. So whether it's humming a happy song or humming something that's more aligned with the emotions that you're experiencing, maybe it's sadness and you just need a good cry, but you can do that without completely taking yourself off the board, so to speak. Just imagine, dream what you want to be. Every moment is a choice. You are creating your life. Whether you choose to respond or not, whether you choose to act or not, it is your choice. You always have one. There will be consequences for whatever choice you make, whether you do or don't. That's just the way things work. And isn't that fascinating? All right, my goodness. This has been a very long conversation. It was longer than I meant it to be, but I appreciate so much of your time. Let me know what you took from this. I truly want to know so that I can give more to you. And if anything really resonated, oh, it is still working. If anything really resonated, let me know. If there's more that you can think of, put them down there so that other people can engage. This is about building community. We set ourselves up for isolation so much. We used to be in community. We used to share in experiences with one another, in struggles, in strife, in hardship, and in abundance. And we are creating more and more isolation. So let's break out of that shell. Put it down in the comments and have some conversations. I'll be right there with you, and I am sending you so much love for the day.